My child, stop for a moment and listen, because this is not random, this is not just another message passing by your eyes, something about you, something deep within your spirit, made this reach you right now, at this exact moment when your thoughts have been heavier than usual and your heart has been carrying more than it shows, and I need you to understand this gently. You are not here by accident, you are here because I have seen you. I have been watching the quiet ways you have been holding yourself together when no one else noticed, the way you kept going even when your energy was low and your mind was restless, and I know how it feels when the day ends and you finally sit alone, scrolling, thinking, wondering if anything is really changing, wondering if anyone truly understands what you have been carrying inside, and I want you to feel this now. I am closer than you think, closer than the air you breathe. Even in the moments you felt overlooked or unseen, I was there, not judging you, not disappointed in you, but staying with you, steady and patient, waiting for you to notice that you were never walking through this alone, and I can see how tired you have been, not just physically, but in your spirit, that kind of tired that rest does not always fix, the kind that comes from trying to stay strong for too long, and maybe you told yourself it is just a phase, maybe you pushed it down and kept moving. But your heart has been asking for something more, something real, something that brings peace instead of pressure, and that is why this moment matters, because you are being invited to pause, not to give up, not to escape, but to breathe and allow yourself to feel supported again, and you do not need to have everything figured out right now, you do not need to rush or force answers, just stay here for a moment longer, because what you are feeling is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that something within you is shifting, even if you cannot fully see it yet, and I know there were nights when your thoughts would not quiet down, when you replayed conversations, questioned your choices, and wondered if you were falling behind, but listen carefully, you are not behind, you are not forgotten, and you are not alone in this, and the next part of this message will help you understand why these feelings have been showing up the way they have, because there is something deeper unfolding, something you almost overlooked, and it begins with seeing your situation in a way you have not seen it before. I see the way you have been carrying this weight quietly, telling yourself that you just need to push through one more day, one more week, one more moment, and maybe then things will feel different, but deep inside there has been a question that keeps returning, a quiet wondering if all this effort is leading somewhere meaningful, and I want you to know that I have heard every one of those unspoken questions, even the ones you could not put into words, because there were times when you did not even understand your own feelings, you just knew something felt off. Something felt unsettled, like you were moving but not arriving. Like you were trying but not seeing the results you hoped for, and in those moments you may have looked around and felt like others were moving ahead more easily, like they had clarity while you were still searching, and that comparison made the weight feel heavier, even if you tried to ignore it, and I understand how that can slowly wear down your confidence, how it can make you second-guess your path, your timing, even your worth. But listen closely, because what you have been experiencing is not a sign that you are being overlooked, it is a sign that something within you has been growing quietly, something that does not rush, something that develops in stillness, and I know that stillness can feel uncomfortable, especially when you are used to measuring progress by visible results, by milestones you can point to, by outcomes you can explain to others, but not everything that matters can be seen right away, and not everything that is delayed is denied. And there have been moments when you thought you were stuck, when you thought nothing was changing, but beneath that surface there has been a process unfolding, shaping your perspective, strengthening your patience, and preparing you to carry something greater with clarity and steadiness, and I know you may not have called it preparation, you may have called it confusion, or frustration, or even failure, but I see it differently. I see the effort you made when it would have been easier to stop, I see the kindness you showed even when you felt drained, I see the way you kept showing up in your own life even when you did not feel fully supported. And those moments matter more than you realize, because they are forming the foundation of who you are becoming, and I want you to gently release the idea that you have fallen behind, because your path is not meant to look like anyone else's, your timing is not meant to match theirs, and the pressure you have been feeling to catch up has been clouding your ability to see what is actually taking shape in your life. And here is something important to hold on to. You are allowed to pause without losing your direction. You are allowed to breathe without falling off your path, and you are allowed to trust that there is meaning even in the parts you do not fully understand yet. And as you stay with me in this moment, I want you to notice that small shift happening within you, that slight softening, that quiet awareness that maybe, just maybe, there is more to your story than what you have been seeing so far, and what comes next will help you understand why certain things did not unfold the way you expected, and why that has been protecting you in ways you are only beginning to recognize. There were moments you almost brushed off, small things that seemed too ordinary to matter, yet they stayed with you longer than they should have, like when you paused in the middle of a busy day and felt a sudden stillness, or when you read something simple and it echoed in your mind hours later, or even those quiet drives where your thoughts slowed down just enough for something deeper to surface. And you may have told yourself it was nothing, just coincidence, just timing, but I want you to gently look again, not with pressure, not with fear, but with openness, because those moments were not interruptions, they were invitations, and I have been speaking to you in ways that feel natural, familiar, woven into your everyday life so that you would not feel overwhelmed or pushed. And I know there were times you asked for clarity, for a sign, for some kind of direction, and when it did not arrive in a dramatic way you wondered if you were being ignored. But what if the answer was quieter than you expected? What if it showed up in the repetition of certain thoughts, in the way a feeling returned again and again until you noticed it, in the subtle discomfort? When something no longer aligned with who you are becoming, and I saw you hesitate in those moments, unsure whether to trust what you felt, unsure whether to move or to wait, and that hesitation did not mean you were weak, it meant you were becoming more aware, more thoughtful, more intentional, and that is a sign of growth, not confusion. And think about the times you felt drawn to step back, even when everything around you was telling you to keep pushing forward, or the times you felt a quiet nudge to slow down, to rethink, to choose differently, and maybe you questioned it because it did not match what others expected from you, but those gentle shifts were guiding you, not away from your path, but deeper into it. And I know it can be difficult to trust something you cannot fully explain, especially when you are used to clear answers and visible direction, but not everything meaningful arrives with certainty. Some things unfold through awareness, through noticing, through allowing yourself to be present enough to recognize what is already being shown to you, and I want you to release the need to label every moment as right or wrong, success or failure, because the journey you are on is not measured that way. It is shaped by how you respond to what you feel, how you honor the quiet signals that keep appearing, and you are not expected to understand everything at once. You are only being asked to stay open, to stay attentive, to stay connected to that inner sense that has been trying to guide you gently. And as you continue to reflect on these small moments, you may begin to see a pattern forming, not a loud or overwhelming pattern, but a steady one, a consistent thread that has been leading you away from what drains you and closer to what brings you peace. And this is where your perspective begins to shift, because what you once saw as random or uncertain starts to feel intentional, and what you once dismissed starts to carry meaning. And the next part of this message will help you understand why some things felt delayed and why that delay has been working in your favor more than you realized. And now I want you to look back again, not with regret, not with the weight of what you think you lost, but with a softer awareness, because something important is beginning to shift inside you, something that changes how you understand your own story, because there were moments you believed you were losing something meaningful, opportunities that slipped away, connections that did not last, plans that did not unfold the way you expected, and at the time it felt like something was being taken from you, like you were being set back while others moved forward. And you may have carried that quietly, telling yourself you should have done more, chosen differently, tried harder. But listen closely, what if those moments were not losses in the way you thought? What if they were forms of protection, gentle redirections that kept you from paths that would not have supported who you are becoming? And I know that is not always easy to accept, especially when you invested your time, your energy, your hope into something that did not continue. But there is a deeper truth here, one that you are just beginning to recognize, that not everything that leaves your life is meant to harm you, and not everything that stays is meant to help you. And I have been guiding you through those changes, even when it felt unclear, even when it felt like silence, because what you interpreted as silence was not absence, it was space, space for you to grow, to breathe, to realign with something more steady and more true. And there were times when you felt delayed, when you questioned why things were not happening as quickly as you wanted, when you watched the calendar move forward and wondered if you were falling behind. But that delay was not holding you back, it was preparing you, shaping your perspective, strengthening your ability to move forward with clarity instead of pressure. And I have seen the way you learned patience in moments you did not choose, the way you adapted when things did not go as planned, the way you kept going even when you did not have all the answers. And those experiences are not empty, they are forming something solid within you. Something that will support you when the next step becomes clear, and this is the moment where your understanding begins to change, where you start to see that what felt like rejection may have been redirection, what felt like delay may have been alignment, and what felt like silence may have been an invitation into a deeper kind of peace, a peace that does not depend on everything working out immediately, but grows from knowing you are being guided with care, and as you sit with this, you may feel a release, a quiet easing of the pressure you have been carrying, because you no longer need to force meaning out of what has already passed. You can allow it to reveal itself naturally, and this does not mean everything becomes clear all at once, but it does mean you are no longer looking at your past through the lens of loss alone. You are beginning to see the intention within it, the quiet ways you were being supported, even when you did not recognize it at the time, and this shift matters, because it opens you to what is ahead without the weight of what you thought went wrong, and as this awareness settles in, there is something else you are ready to understand, something about the challenges you faced that will make even more sense as you continue to stay present with this message. There were moments recently when your faith was not tested in big, obvious ways, but in the quiet details of your everyday life, the kind that no one else sees and no one else talks about, like when you checked your phone hoping for a message that never came, or when you waited for a response that stayed silent longer than you expected, and you tried to tell yourself it did not matter, but deep down it did, or when you walked away from a conversation feeling a distance growing where there used to be closeness, and you could not quite explain when things started to change, or why it felt like you were slowly becoming less seen. And I know how heavy that can feel, because it is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is quiet and lingering, and it stays with you when the day ends and everything slows down. And maybe there was a night when you sat alone, the room quiet, the lights dim, and you felt that familiar question rise again. Asking if you were being forgotten, asking if all your effort, all your care, all your patience was truly leading anywhere. And I saw you in that moment, not just the surface of it, but the deeper feeling underneath, the part of you that was trying to stay hopeful while also feeling uncertain. And I want you to understand this gently, you were never abandoned in those moments, not by me, even when it felt like doors were not opening, even when opportunities seemed just out of reach. Even when things you hoped would stabilize still felt uncertain, I was still with you, guiding you in ways that do not always look like immediate answers, because sometimes what feels like a closed door is simply a pause, a space where something is still aligning, and sometimes what feels like distance in a relationship is revealing something important, something you needed to see clearly over time rather than all at once. And I know it is not easy to sit in that space between what you hoped for and what is actually happening. But that space is not empty, it is meaningful. It is where your understanding deepens, where your strength becomes quieter but more steady, where you begin to rely less on immediate reassurance and more on a deeper sense of trust. And you have been learning this, even if you did not realize it, every time you chose to keep showing up for your life, every time you chose to keep going even when things felt uncertain, every time you chose to believe that something good could still come from what you were experiencing, and that matters more than you know, because it is shaping how you will move forward, not with fear or pressure, but with a calm confidence that does not depend on everything being perfect right away. And I want you to hold on to this truth as you continue. You are not being overlooked, you are not being set aside, and you are not walking through this alone, even in the moments that feel the most quiet, because there is something steady supporting you underneath it all, something that has not left you, something that has been present through every unanswered question and every uncertain step. And as you stay with this awareness, there is something more you are ready to see about how these experiences have been shaping your direction in ways you are only beginning to recognize. And as you continue to move through your days, I want you to begin noticing the smaller moments that feel easy to overlook, because not everything meaningful arrives in a dramatic way. Sometimes it comes quietly, gently, in forms that feel almost ordinary at first, like a sentence you hear in passing that stays with you longer than expected, or a message that arrives at just the right moment when your thoughts were beginning to spiral, or even a calm feeling that settles in your chest without a clear reason, a kind of peace that does not come from solving everything, but from something deeper steadying you. And you may have dismissed these moments before, thinking they were coincidence or timing, but I want you to look again with a softer awareness, because these are the ways guidance often reaches you without overwhelming you, without forcing you, allowing you to stay grounded while still being gently redirected. And think about the times when something was delayed, when a plan did not move forward as quickly as you hoped, when an answer came later than you wanted, and at first it felt frustrating, maybe even discouraging, but later you realized that the timing helped you avoid something you were not ready for, or helped you see something more clearly before making a decision, and that is not something to ignore, that is something to reflect on, because it shows you that not every delay is an obstacle. Sometimes it is a quiet form of support, giving you space to step back, to think, to adjust, and I know there have been moments when a small opportunity appeared, something that did not seem significant at first, maybe a conversation, a new idea, a simple invitation, and you hesitated because it did not match the bigger picture you had in mind, but those small openings matter, they are often the beginning of something that grows over time, not all at once, and you are learning to recognize that progress does not always arrive in large, obvious steps, sometimes it begins in ways that feel almost too simple to trust, and I want you to allow yourself to be open to those moments without overthinking them, without needing to label them as signs or explanations, just noticing them, just acknowledging that something is unfolding in a way that feels supportive, even if you cannot fully explain it yet, and this does not mean every moment carries a hidden message, and it does not mean you have to search for meaning in everything, but it does mean that you can begin to trust the patterns that bring you a sense of clarity, a sense of calm, a sense that you are being guided in a direction that feels more aligned with who you are becoming, and as you start to see these patterns, you may feel a quiet confidence building, not a loud certainty, but a steady trust that you are not moving blindly, that there is a rhythm to your experiences that is helping you grow, helping you learn, helping you move forward in a way that is more thoughtful and more grounded. And this awareness will become even more important as you begin to understand what is shifting next in your life, because there is a deeper layer to these experiences that is about to become clearer to you, and now you are beginning to feel a quiet shift within yourself, not something loud or overwhelming, but something steady, something real, as if a weight you carried for so long is slowly loosening its hold on your heart, and I see the way you are starting to let go of what no longer fits who you are becoming, even if it is not easy, even if part of you still looks back and wonders what could have been, because there were things you held on to out of hope, out of habit, out of the belief that if you just tried a little harder, things might turn out differently, but you are starting to understand that not every closed door is meant to be reopened, and not every path you once wanted is meant to be followed again, and this realization is not a loss, it is a release, a gentle freeing of your energy so it can move towards something more aligned, and I know there were moments when you felt the urge to go back, to revisit what felt familiar, even if it no longer felt right, because familiarity can feel safer than the unknown. But you are learning now that peace does not come from returning to what once was, it comes from accepting what is and allowing yourself to move forward without resistance, and part of this process is learning to forgive, not just others, but yourself as well, for the times you stayed longer than you should have, for the times you ignored your own inner voice, for the times you doubted your worth or questioned your direction, and I want you to be gentle with yourself here, because you were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time, and every experience, even the ones that felt confusing or painful, has shaped your understanding in a way that is helping you now, and as you begin to release that weight, you may notice something new emerging, a sense of calm that does not depend on everything being resolved, a sense of steadiness that remains even when things around you are still unfolding, and this is what peace truly feels like, not the absence of challenges, but the presence of a heart that is no longer controlled by fear, no longer chasing validation, no longer trying to force outcomes that are not meant for you, and this is where your strength becomes different, quieter, but more powerful, because you are no longer reacting to every uncertainty, you are learning to respond with clarity, with patience, with trust, and I see the way you are beginning to choose yourself in healthier ways, setting boundaries, honoring your energy, allowing yourself to walk away from what drains you instead of holding on out of obligation, and this is not selfish, it is necessary, it is part of becoming who you are meant to be, and as you continue to release what no longer aligns, you are creating space for something new, something that does not require you to prove your worth, something that meets you with the same steadiness you are learning to give yourself, and this space may feel unfamiliar at first, even uncomfortable, because you are no longer filling it with what used to distract you or weigh you down, but stay with this feeling, because within it is a deeper sense of freedom, and as you settle into this new awareness, you are becoming ready to recognize what is truly meant to enter your life next, not from a place of need, but from a place of peace and clarity. And as you stand in this quieter space within yourself, something new is beginning to take shape, not all at once, not in a way that overwhelms you, but in a steady and grounded way that you can actually carry forward, and I want you to understand this gently. You are not just waiting for something to happen, you are being prepared to receive what is coming with clarity and strength. Because what is ahead will require more than hope, it will require a heart that is steady, a mind that is clear, and a spirit that is willing to move forward with both faith and responsibility. And I see the small changes you have already begun to make, the way you pause before reacting, the way you choose your words more carefully, the way you are starting to listen to yourself instead of ignoring what you feel, and these are not small things, these are the foundations of a different kind of life. One where you are no longer led by pressure or fear, but by intention and awareness. And there may be moments when you feel a quiet urge to speak honestly, to express something you have been holding back, to say what is true for you instead of what feels easier, and that is part of this preparation, learning to communicate with clarity and respect, not only with others, but with yourself. And I want you to take those moments seriously, not with anxiety, but with presence, because your voice matters, your perspective matters, and the more you honor that, the more aligned your path becomes. And you may also notice a shift in how you approach your quiet moments, the way you reflect, the way you pray, the way you sit with your thoughts, not rushing to fix everything, not asking for immediate answers, but allowing yourself to be still, to breathe, to listen. And this kind of calm connection is where deeper clarity begins to form, not through force, but through consistency, through showing up with an open heart even when you do not have all the answers. And I know there were times when you felt like you needed to do something big to move forward, something dramatic, something that would change everything at once. But what you are learning now is that real movement often begins with simple, consistent steps, choosing to act with integrity, choosing to follow through on what you know is right, choosing to take responsibility for your direction without placing all the weight on what has not happened yet. And this is where faith becomes something active, not just something you feel, but something you live, in the way you show up each day, in the way you handle uncertainty, in the way you continue forward even when the outcome is not fully clear. And I want you to notice how this feels different from before. There is less urgency to prove something, less pressure to control every detail, and more space to move with trust and intention. And this does not mean everything is already resolved, but it does mean you are becoming ready, ready to recognize what is aligned, ready to respond with clarity instead of confusion, ready to step into opportunities without the weight of past doubt holding you back. And as you continue in this way, you may begin to sense that something is approaching, not as a sudden change that disrupts everything, but as a natural continuation of the growth you have already been experiencing. And this is where your awareness becomes even more important, because the next step will not come with pressure, it will come with a sense of rightness, a quiet confirmation that you are moving in the direction that fits who you are becoming.